Hello, beautiful woman. Today we're talking about authenticity and we're talking about the identity gap, which is essentially the difference between our authentic true self and the self that we project out into the world. So the self that we project out into the world, what we'll call the false self, is how we appear on the outside. And then the true authentic self is how we feel on the inside. So when we start talking about the false self, and I use my hands in this way because I love this kind of visual description that Joe Dispenza uses to show the identity gap. When we talk about this self that we project out to the world, this is really it's an identity that we project out. It's who I want you to think I am. It's a facade, and it's ideal for the world rather than ideal for me. So you'll remember that I've said in the past that the unconscious mind body creates limiting beliefs to try and protect itself from harm, or it believes that it's actually protecting us from harm by creating certainty through our limiting beliefs. Now, when we memorize these addictive emotional states or limiting beliefs such as shame, guilt, fear, anger, depression, we actually develop a gap between the way we appear and the way we really are. Now, I say that we memorize these states because these states are actually not natural to us. It's our unconscious mind creating them to do what it takes to keep us safe, or what it thinks will keep us safe. Now, the false self relies on the external world to remember who it is as a somebody. Now, what happens with the false self is that we become attached to our external environment by becoming attached to everyone and everything, so that we can remind ourselves of how we want to project ourselves outwards. So in other words, our identity becomes attached to our environment. So for example, I work for this company, I have 5 children, I've been to these places, I've had these experiences, etc. Essentially what happens is that the false self looks to the external environment for validation of who it is. Now, on the other hand, our true self, which is the one below, is who I really am. It's how I feel. It's how I am on the inside. And this self is ideal for me, not for the world around me. Now, this self is really how we feel when we're not distracted by our external environment, or we're not preoccupied by life. Okay? In other words, we're not interacting with all kinds of different experiences and things and people at various times in our lives. And what happens with this true self is that we feel that we can't show this true self to the world because we're frightened of being rejected. Now, the number one human fear on this planet is, I am not good enough. Yeah, and hence our fear of rejection. We also feel that we can't show the world this true self because we're frightened of our feelings. We're frightened of our emotions. We believe that we are them, or that we might become them. And that feels very, very scary to us. So how do we know what our true self actually is? Well, if we sit long enough without doing anything, we begin to feel something, and that something is who we truly are. So if we're uncomfortable with who we truly are, with this self, it's because we believe that our emotions are us, which they are not. Now, once we actually start to look below the layers, below the emotions, below the states of mind, below the limiting beliefs, and we let them go, that's when we'll see the beauty of who we are underneath. Okay, so once we realize that this self is not us and we work to let it go, that's when we're able to see the beauty of who we are underneath. So the trick here is firstly to realize that our emotions are not us. We have to start getting comfortable with our feelings and with our emotions because they're a natural and normal expression of who we are. We have to accept them and love them and then let them go, knowing that our feelings and emotions are going to come and go. That's just a part of being human. And then secondly, we want to identify the false self and the true self and work to start releasing and letting go what's in between, the unwanted emotions, the states of mind, the limiting beliefs. Because once we collapse these, we become our true self. So this is what we call authenticity. This is what we call enlightenment. And this is what we call our true potential. And you can see now why so many of us are so frightened of our true potential, because we're actually frightened of the emotions that we believe is our true self, rather than what's actually underneath. So my question to you is, what self do you project out to the world to stay safe and within acceptable norms? And how does this differ from your true self that's actually sitting underneath? I'd love to hear. please post in the comments box below, and let's keep this conversation going. Bye for now.